this political violence has happened all throughout 2020. We saw the what they call the Summer of Love when we had all of our major cities burned to the ground. We had cops killed. We had buildings looted. We had places burned to the ground. And
that was Madison Cawthorn claiming that we had a lot of cities, major cities, that were burnt down, burnt to the ground in 2020 as a result of the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, that, of course, apparently came as news to some people, like, you know, the people who lived in those cities, all that. But hey, look, it's not surprising that Madison Cawthorn is saying these things. Now, why do I say that? No, it's given the fact that Cawthorn is facing possible punishment for his role in promoting the protest that eventually led to the riot on January 6th. So now, let me give you an example of what's going on here. So you might have heard that earlier this month, you had 11 North Carolina voters challenging Representative Madison Cawthorn's eligibility to run in the Republican primary for a House seat. Now, according to their complaint, which was filed with the North Carolina State Board of Elections, Cawthorn, they say, is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which states that no person shall be a member of the House if, having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution as a member of Congress, the person then engaged in insurrection against the Constitution. So that's an old Civil War era, or afterwards, after the Civil War, to try to keep Confederates out of the government, which again makes sense, because if you literally try to insurrect against the United States, you shouldn't be in office. So now, that said, I think as a result of that and all the questions around him, surrounding him when it comes to his role in January 6th, he's going to come out here and make pretty ridiculous and hyperbolic statements and comparisons between what happened on January 6th, which again was rioting, looting, violence against police, and an attempt to overturn the election, as well as supporting the real coup attempt, which was outlined by Peter Navarro in his own book, and Steve Bannon, their Green Bay sweep, of which they had literal fake electors waiting for Mike Pence to refuse to certify, and by the way, this is only a ceremonial role, so you couldn't actually not certify the election. It wouldn't mean that, like, oh no, Donald Trump doesn't have to leave because, Mike Pence refused to certify the election. No, again, doesn't actually mean anything. He just opens the envelope. Nonetheless, they relied on ignorance of Mike Pence's actual role in the entire thing in order to try to cast confusion. And so, look, you get mass confusion, and then you get right-wing media that comes in and just broadcasts, Pence refused to certify the election. Then you get the fake certification documents that were sent into the National Archives. And you had all of these fake electors that were lined up and ready to take the place of the real electors in key swing states to try to basically fake Donald Trump into power again. And so it's the literal fake it till you make it. And that's what it was. Now, the riots themselves, I think that they were basically to scare Mike Pence and other lawmakers into not certifying the election as well, and, allowing those fake electors to do what they're going to do in the middle of the chaos. So, now, if you want to compare that to the overwhelmingly peaceful Black Lives Matter rallies, protests, I think that's hugely disingenuous. Again, 93% peaceful, and involved millions of protesters across major U.S. cities. Now, was there violence? Yes. Was there looting? Yeah, that happened. Nobody's arguing with that. Was there arson? Yeah. Did entire cities burn down? No. No, that's not what happened. Now, look, you had some instances, again, of arson. For example, there was a Wendy's that got burned down. I know. Somebody please think of the poor Wendy's. Now, police have actually indicted 3 people for that arson. And so, okay. Now, Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, there was a police station that was set on fire. Now, we find out later, well, that the person that set that fire happened to have been a Boogaloo boy, 26-year-old Ivan Harrison Hunter, who traveled from, I believe it was Texas, and, in order to join the George Floyd protests. You also had another Boogaloo boy, Stephen Carrillo, who ended up shooting 2 police officers that were standing guard. One of them died from their injuries. Boogaloos. Those are the people that won a civil war in the United States. Now, that's not what Black Lives Matter wanted. Black Lives Matter literally just wanted police to stop shooting black people. And so understand that there was a lot of opportunists behind a lot of this violence that had happened during the George Floyd protests. There's a church fire in Nashville that was also started by a 3%er. So again, you had agent provocateurs that were involved in some of this violence as well. And police. There were also police that had instigated violence, rounded up not only protesters, but also members of the press. Even with all that, though, did any cities burn down? No, that's not what happened at all. Again, and as far as police are concerned, well, I just mentioned that there was somebody who was killed by police. There was a Boogaloo boy who had shot and killed a police officer, right? But in reality, in 2020, he wants to talk about all the cops being killed. Well, guess what? Guess what was the leading cause of deaths for police officers in the line of duty? COVID-19. COVID-19 killed more cops. 256 out of the 387 reported police deaths in 2020 were from COVID. Oops. Man, it's almost like, I don't know, why aren't they out there shooting at COVID? Instead of going after unarmed black people. I mean, come on. Yeah, their biggest, the biggest problem, the biggest killer of police is them not wanting to wear a mask or get a vaccine. Oops. So, look, if that really does show you anything, it shows you how full of shit Madison Cawthorn actually is, and how he only wants to distract you from the fact that he was supporting an insurrection.